Attention, everybody. The views and opinions expressed on the show are not necessarily those of Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, and or their affiliate and supported ministries and or nonprofits. Today's topic, vote, vote, vote. I vote that we vote. Good morning. Coming to you live from Acts Media Group headquarters here in the beautiful Springfield, Missouri. It's the Morning Drive with Matt and Jay, with your hosts, Matt and Jay. We're by ourselves today, but that's okay. You know what to say? Hey.
Hey.
Yeah. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Drive with Matt and Jay. My name is Matt.
My name is Jay.
And we're glad to have everybody on board with us today. Something interesting happens on this computer. When people comment on our YouTube videos,
Yeah.
it shows up as a notification on this computer.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we've been having some inappropriate bots with lewd pictures commenting, right?
I didn't notice.
So, well, we've been deleting them. I guess Troy and Belinda were on here, and somebody commented, and it was one of those bots that has a very lewd photo on the front of it. And I think she thought that I'm looking at stuff inappropriate on this. Because all you see is it pops up as a notification, and it's someone saying, "Do you love me?" or "I love you. Do you love me?" or "Hello, sweetie." And you can tell it's a bot. It's not real, but they are preying
Who
on
thought
us.
that?
I think Belinda.
Ah.
So if you're watching and you're ever using these computers and that notification, they pop up and there's an inappropriate profile pic, click on it so you can see that it's just a comment on our YouTube videos that we have no control over if we want to keep the comments turned on our YouTube channel. So, that being said, I just found that out the other day. It's like, well, I'm not looking at anything inappropriate.
Well.
That would be silly.
Okay.
Yeah. So today's topic, vote, vote, vote. Tomorrow is voting day. Tomorrow is voting day.
Tomorrow is election day, yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Topic of the show covered.
That is, I guess I could have picked a more in-depth topic. Good morning, Steve McAllister. Not with us today. We're not going to elaborate on the air as to why. Personal issues, along with others that are having personal issues as well. But we will keep you in our prayers, of course, and be sure and keep everybody that's up here in your prayers also. Whenever you're trying to do the work for the God, the enemy will attack us and try to discourage us.
Yeah. And life itself doesn't make it easy either.
No. Sure doesn't.
Yeah.
Life can be pretty daunting, pretty frustrating.
Yes, this is true. Have you ever been through an election that you thought was so contentious? I mean, the last one I thought was pretty contentious, and I've seen quite a few in my day. Actually,
no, I told you last whenever Trump won the presidency the last time, I told you this next one is going to be a complete circus.
Yeah.
And it is. It's a circus. Regardless of who you're voting for.
I think the last one, as far as social media, was worse. Of course, I'm actually not looking at social media as much as I was.
No, I'm not either.
And because of COVID, we're not as social, actually.
Right, and I'm not a fan of social media right now, except for us.
Yeah.
I guess we're considered social media.
Yeah.
We try to come at you with a non-biased point of view. It's very difficult to do.
It is.
So most of it's one of those
Well,
things.
and there are some issues, political issues, that are completely saturated with bias. There's no way you can address them without a bias.
Yeah.
Like being pro-life or pro-choice.
Yeah.
My personal belief is that a man's sperm is alive.
Yeah.
And sure, it doesn't have the potential to live
Without an egg,
without going into a woman's egg.
but it's still alive.
Right. And even then, but then you know what? I don't have, what is my potential for life? Right? There's no guarantee that I could live past today or even this moment.
They're even 5 minutes from now.
So when you talk about the potential for life, you get into a gray area where people get to decide what life is and what life is valuable.
Yeah. It's
You
like,
know?
where's the line? Mm-hmm. Where's the line? Good morning, Steve Schultz.
Yes, and then with healthcare having been politicized, that I think that takes the unbiased
Yeah.
out of it. You know what I mean? Whereas you'd go in with a pregnancy, even suppose you really wanted the child,
Right.
and you go in with a pregnancy and a doctor tells you that the child's probably not going to live or you're not going to live. You're confronted with a pretty major decision to make, right?
Yeah, and that's a horrible decision that's a horrible predicament to be put in.
Right. But then with it being politicized, and a person's opinion about where life begins comes into it, then we have the ability to choose what life is valuable and what life is not, because there's no denying that a living cell called a sperm cell is alive. If you deny that's alive, you're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
And you're hanging on to ideas that you know are not true. We've all seen the sperm swim around under a microscope, and we all know it's alive. It's a living thing.
Yeah.
Is it a human?
No,
It's a human sperm.
it is a human sperm.
It's not any other kind of sperm.
It's carrying
It's a
23
human sperm.
chromosomes,
Right.
which is half of our...
And it is alive. It's a living cell. Its potential for life depends on how where it's received and how it's nurtured from there.
Right.
But that's nurturing. That's the choice to nurture the sperm
Morning,
and
Uncle
the
Ray.
life to grow into a human and live as long as it can. So
Wow. Steve says his 1-year anniversary of Brighter Living Live is today.
is it?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know.
So, anyways, I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you saying?
So my opinion is that we don't get to choose what life is sacred. All life is sacred, and it's
Amen
all for a
to
purpose.
that.
And
All life is sacred.
we eat meat, so a life is taken in order for us to eat meat.
Yeah. But if you're killing the animal just to kill it, I'm against hunting for sport. You know what I mean? Hunting for food, I'm not against hunting for food. Just because there's a sport, it's a little sporty, that's okay. But if you're hunting just to get ahead on your wall, I mean,
Yeah, I don't believe. I think I don't think you should be killing an animal for that reason either. It should be for food and clothing. Yeah, I don't believe. I think my opinion.
yeah, I agree with you on that.
And sure, you can get carried away and go too far in any direction, and I don't
Jackie
know.
Melton, good morning.
So I feel like sperm is alive, that it was intended for a purpose.
Yeah.
That when it reaches the egg and is nurtured by a woman into its birth, and then it's nurtured by somebody into adulthood, the potential for that life doesn't get to be decided by us.
It also
either.
depends. The potential for that life depends on our decision.
Right. There's a moral responsibility
Yeah.
and an ethic.
And a lot
to
of people don't look at it that way. We've talked about this before, and that's one way that I didn't even think about it. We need to be more aware of who we entrust that to.
Yes.
That's a very nice way of putting it.
And I think that
I need to get my coffee. Go ahead.
I think that the topic, the way it's been presented from the pro-choice side, is one that is based on based on lies. And those lies are designed to absolve people from responsibility. Because for one thing, as soon as you say abortion, that means a sperm that has already reached an egg. Right? And so men aren't even involved in the conversation at that point. You know, and I think that that's absolving men of their responsibility and the intense direct connection that they have to life.
Yeah.
And it's furthering. A woman can't get pregnant without a sperm. So why is it that when we talk about abortion, that we're not talking about a man and his sperm where it started? And I think that that is the key, because the number one beginning part of it is where if a man doesn't plant his seed in a woman, she can't get pregnant.
That's true.
So I think that the number one responsibility lies with the man and woman who lie together, not being careful of what they could have in their hands, what they have in their decision is.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I know a few women who have had abortions, and, you know, immediately people think of them as, you know, murderers and this, that, and the other. And that doesn't, I mean, that's not the case. You know, a woman doesn't get pregnant hoping to get an abortion. I mean, for somebody to think that, that's crazy. What it is someone made a bad decision, and the media and the lawmakers and everything have made it a solution to a bad decision. Instead of dealing with the consequences of your actions, there's a way to eliminate the responsibility altogether. And it's being used that way. And every woman that I know personally that have had abortions, it messes them up, like psychologically.
There's some
They do not like what they're doing.
Mind.
Yeah. So what we really need to be doing is be praying for those women who are faced with a decision like this. Instead of demonizing them, pray for them, because odds are, statistically speaking, there's a man there that is supporting abortion, or there's not a man there at all giving support of any kind.
If you plant your seed in a woman, but when you don't know how she feels about the responsibility to nurture a sperm cell when it gets into her egg, if you plant your seed there indiscriminately and not concerned, you're just as responsible for abortion as anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. So
because it can't come, there cannot be a pregnancy without a man's sperm.
Or
else women would just be pregnant.
There are ministries out there that counsel women and men.
What about men? Men need to be counseled a lot
Yes.
more about what they have inside them, and their responsibility and the connection that they have to the children.
Right. Which I believe unfortunately, there's a lot of deadbeat dads out there, but there's also deadbeat moms.
Well, before the sexual revolution and before before abortion was, made legal, the single parent household was almost non-existent. There weren't a lot of single parents.
But there was also a lot of
I think that at that point when they absolved men
yeah,
and took them out of the conversation as though they weren't even part of the conversation or responsible at all, men walked away. Men were never taught morally to be connected to their sperm and their life that they have in them, and how procreation works and how much a part of them it really is.
We all paid attention in health class when we had to watch that video. We were all interested in hearing about it. We know what happens. It's a matter of not really thinking it. You gotta change the thinking of it. The thought is, that our sperm is our responsibility.
It is.
God entrusted us to
Shouldn't be
the
taken
care
lightly.
and responsibility of making the decision as to what is done with that. Because if you think about it, that is one of the greatest miracles that we have. One of them that we have on this earth is childbirth. I mean,
I don't know if I would call it a miracle.
It is a miracle. I mean, look at it. There is a
A miracle is something very unlikely to occur.
Well, I look at
But it
miracles
does
differently.
anyway.
To me, when I think of a miracle like that, I think, wow. I mean, it blows
I think
me
it's
away.
the way our human bodies were designed in order to designed in order to continue the human race, in order to bring new life into the world. I mean, that's the way our bodies work. That's why I don't call it a miracle. But I mean,
I call it a miracle because
I would call it a blessing.
It just amazes
A
me.
blessing that's available to almost anybody in your youth, especially.
Almost, but there are people out there that would love to have that blessing.
And we can talk about the margins and the people who can't have children, but that's not really what we're talking about here. We're talking about those who can.
Right.
And it's the reason I don't call it a miracle is because almost anybody can do it.
Yeah. Well,
Almost anybody can create life.
I'm still going to call it a miracle because it's a miracle to me. It blows me away. Whenever and you've had 3 kids,
Yeah.
so you know that it's really hard to.
I know how it
imagine.
happened, and I knew it was likely, though,
Yeah,
which doesn't make it a miracle.
I remember and know exactly when, and of course, obviously how it happened, but
Right.
it's you really don't fully comprehend.
I think saying
the
it's a
severity
miracle
of it.
also kind of takes it out of our hands. Like some supernatural thing happened that was out of our control. And the fact is, it's not a supernatural thing that's out of our control or that requires any
I 100%
divine.
believe it's a supernatural situation.
So then you should be able to have sex with anybody and not worry about pregnancy because it's only by God's
No.
doing that it would
I mean,
actually
they
work.
have been able to. So they have been able to pinpoint what happens,
Uh-huh.
but not how it happens. Like for instance, starts as two cells, each containing 23 chromosomes, one from the mother, one from the father.
Mm-hmm.
They come together. Of course, you know all this. Then it becomes one cell, splits into 2, splits into 4, and then just keeps splitting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same cells.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, somewhere in that process, and they can't figure out how it happens, this cell decides it's going to be a kidney cell. This cell decides.
I don't call that a miracle, though. I mean, let's look. A miracle is something that happens that's not naturally likely to happen.
You don't have to call it a miracle. You don't have to. That's the
I
beauty
think
of
the
it.
terminology is the reason why abortion's happening today, using the wrong terminology about what is actually happening.
I mean,
The
come
truth is we are fully responsible for procreation.
Absolutely.
100%.
But it's still, in my
God
opinion, it's a
made us
miracle.
able to procreate, and if we do come together in that same way, there's a good chance that there's going to be procreation.
Now, I agree with Jackie
And
on this. Men's responsibility, I guess, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut
No,
you
you're
off,
good.
but
You're good. I think it's good.
I can see that we're going to have to agree to disagree on it. I mean, you can call it whatever you want. To me, in my mind, in my heart, it's a miracle watching the entire process.
I think that's the. I don't
There was
even-
a human
Let's look up the
being-
definition of a miracle.
I'm not talking about like the actual book definition.
Right.
I've called it a miracle my entire life, and I have heard it called a miracle my entire life. So when I say it's a miracle, it's something that is mind blowing.
I think that is the very reason that men allow themselves to walk away from it. That is the reason calling it a miracle is the very first step that started us walking away from the responsibility of it, because it's in God's hands. It's not in God's hands. God made us able to do this, and it's our responsibility to be careful of how we do it, when we do it, and where we do it, and who we do it with, because there is a likelihood that will produce a child.
I think I disagree with you on that.
A miracle is somebody who's
disagree.
blind, who will
Because
never see again,
anytime
seeing again.
Okay,
because
so
it's not likely they'll ever see again.
Okay, so and I think that taking the word or not seeing it as a miracle, something that
you want to give God credit for it.
Absolutely, it's something that cannot happen without God designing.
Then a rock
the
is
person.
just as much a miracle.
But I mean, if it's not a miracle, why is it that was a thing of shame back in the early days in the Bible? If a woman couldn't procreate, if a woman could not have a child, that was a shameful thing for them, right?
Right.
So yes, almost everybody can do it. But to me, the process, and I'm not talking about, it has nothing to do with the responsibility of the father or the mother.
And I think it has everything to do
Once
with that.
it's in there, just what happens is so amazing.
Is divine, but not a miracle.
Well, see, and I can tell we're gonna have to agree to disagree on this, because I think telling me not to call it a miracle is like telling me to diminish it some sort, because miracle is pretty high up here in my mental
How does
and
calling it
emotional.
divine diminish it?
Well, I mean, I've called it a miracle since I saw my first child being brought into this world, and I'll never call it anything but a miracle.
Right.
I mean, yes, the decision is ours, and what we do physically.
Well, in fact, by definition, it is not a miracle.
Well,
It is not unlikely to happen. It's very likely to happen. There are people being born right now, all over the place, all over the world. There are people having sex right now, all over the world, that will result in a pregnancy.
so someone says, let's see, can any scientist create a human? Or were our
But that
bodies
doesn't make it
created
a
to create?
miracle. That makes it divine.
I think it's a miracle. It is divine, but it's a miracle to me.
Right.
Okay, so is that okay? Can I say it like that? It's a miracle to
Well,
me.
you can say it however you want, but I think that when we start allowing words to be used improperly is when we start to not be connected to them in the very real way that they're meant. So if it's a miracle, then it's not my responsibility. It's something
No,
God does.
I disagree
and
with that.
It has nothing
That's
to do
crazy.
with me
Just
or my
calling
choices.
it a miracle does not eliminate. Okay, so whenever a father
Getting into a car accident when you're drunk is not a miracle.
living
Surviving it
Yeah.
might be.
Well, look, okay, so that's okay, so we can ask any father that decided to get a woman pregnant and then bolt. The word miracle did not come into their mind at all. In their psyche, that probably the thought miracle wasn't even there. Period. Because, and I think calling it a miracle is not making people eliminate their
I
responsibility.
think calling it a miracle implies that it's something unlikely to happen, something that God intervenes and causes.
That's not what I
and
see at all.
brings to happen.
That's not how I think of it at all. And I bet you if you were to talk to 90% of the people you talk to, when you say it's a miracle, they'll agree with you. And they're not thinking that it's out of their hands. They know very well it's in their hands.
I don't think people, when they talk about pregnancy now, are talking about their responsibility or
But
even thinking about it.
The process is miraculous to me.
I think it's been degraded into something we have complete control over and does not have a divine connection to God that is a moral issue. It's all just our responsibility. If we want to do it, we can. If it results in pregnancy, we get an abortion. If and it's all out of, it's all in our hands, our control, and none of it has any value or importance.
To some.
So I mean, I've called it a miracle in the past too, but I do think that's an error. I think people need to feel like it's a responsibility. You can't walk away from it saying, "Well, it's if it's a miracle, it's in God's hands." The fact is that it's connected to us personally, and there's a semen and an egg that come together through a process that God created for us to go through, and if we do that, it's likely there's going to be a pregnancy.
Yeah.
So, and
Still, the process is miraculous to me.
Yeah. Well,
To me, you can call it whatever you want. I'm gonna keep calling it a miracle. You can keep calling it
right.
whatever you want to call it. I can see we're not going to get anywhere with this conversation.
Right.
So,
But really, the fact that we agree on is that we are responsible for procreation.
oh, we do agree on that, definitely.
And that it takes a man and a woman. You can't have a pregnancy without a man. That's why I don't think these conversations should be had as though a man's not involved, because a man was definitely involved somewhere.
And men's responsibility should not be stolen from them either, Jackie says. And responsibility isn't a dirty word. They can be a wonderful blessing. Perspective. Then she says, I'm with Matt. Life is a miracle of God. So, Jackie said, I didn't get to have any children of my own. I had no control over that. And Hannah prayed to get pregnant. Vasectomy is the best if you want to play. Larry.
If you want to what?
If you want to play around, a vasectomy is the best way, he said.
Right.
So just, kind of love it. So we went from voting to a debate as to whether...
Well, because abortion is a big topic, and pro-life or pro-choice is a big topic in it. And I think the choice starts with a man and a woman, and that a man is not absolved from the process.
Mary having Jesus is a miracle. Dennis Everson says, can it be miraculous?
That was a miracle.
Now, Dennis Everson says, can it be miraculous without being a miracle? That's heavy, Dennis.
Maybe.
So did you look up the definition of the word miracle?
No, I didn't, because you said it wouldn't matter.
I mean,
I already know the definition. It's not. I mean, I don't know it word for word, but it's not.
And I do agree with that. Yes, that is a miracle. Mary having Jesus was a miracle because
that was a miracle
because she didn't have sex.
Right.
So
that's why
that is a miracle.
Right. You see my point.
Yeah, but I guess.
Because really, that doesn't.
What it really boils down to
actually downplay Christ's birth, Mary's pregnancy.
But now, what it really boils down to is each of our perception of the word miracle.
I think it's the misuse of words, the redefining of words. And it absolves the people from their responsibility. I've called it that
my whole entire life. Everybody's called it that my entire life.
What is wrong with changing the way we use words because they're being misused?
Nothing.
What's wrong with going back to the truth of a matter and the actual definition of something, because the misuse of the word has absolved people of their responsibility?
Well, I mean, when you say like misusing words and causing people to absolve themselves, the word miracle doesn't even come to my mind as absolving somebody of their responsibility. I mean, I'm just talking about the process. A human being is made in 9 months and pushed out of something that is, but everything, I look at, well, of course, I think everything's miraculous. That may be my optimistic outlook on life. Like the fact that
I think it's the misuse of the word miracle. I think you mean divine, designed by God, given by God.
To me, miracle and divine are the same.
Right.
Because to me, I guess that's categorized in the same.
So then Mary being pregnant with Jesus is no more of a miracle than anybody else? Is there levels of miracle?
Yeah, there is.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Mary becoming pregnant as a virgin is
very
unlikely.
There's little miracles all the time. You know, there's different levels. Well, okay, so we'll come
just as divine.
We'll come up with a class or a rating system for miracles. How's that? Will that work? Like we got miracle
a spectrum. Let's put it on a spectrum. Because we love spectrums.
We do love spectrums because we're on it. What is important is what God's word says, not man's opinion. That's what Jackie says. And it doesn't. I guess it doesn't call childbirth a miracle in the Bible. It is what it is in the Bible. Childbirth. It is a blessing.
It is a blessing, and it is divine.
We should start using that word instead of miracle. It is a blessing. A miraculous one, but a blessing.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, man, I think about it and I'm floored with the complexity.
Yeah.
The fact that
it is divine, designed by God, and very likely that if you are fertile and she is fertile and you have sex, and the sperm and the egg come together, it's very likely that that will result in a child.
Yeah.
So you should be careful of where you plant your seed, men.
Absolutely.
And ladies, you should be careful of
okay,
who you allow.
This
to
is
do
why
that.
you're not supposed to. All right, this is why, and I have no doubt that this is why God tells us not to have sex unless we're married.
Yeah.
Because if you marry somebody, you plan on spending the rest of your life with them. So don't have
And
relations.
let's face it, it does revolve in some part around sex.
Yes.
But the rest of your life would imply you need to have more than that involved than just sex. There should be some common pursuit, some common
Right.
devotion, some
Yeah.
common
Yeah.
moral guide.
So, and in my experience, if you're going to have relations with somebody in that way, and of course, I didn't believe that when I was younger. When I was younger, of course, my hormones overrode every decision-making skill that I had. Was overrode by the pheromones and hormones and all the words that end with like that. Anyways,
Yeah.
so where was I going with that?
I get it, and the drive is powerful.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why we've had babies out of wedlock throughout history. That's why it's happened.
Larry says, what came first, the children or the egg?
Definitely the egg.
Well, yeah, the egg. Yeah. Yeah. The egg.
Before the children, yeah.
So, yeah.
But pro-life and pro-choice is a big issue for me.
Yeah, it is for me, too.
Yeah, and then they bring up the
I
topics.
personally believe that the decision is made whenever you decide to have intercourse
Well,
without
then what about
protection.
those who haven't decided?
Now-
What about those who are raped? That's a tough and touchy subject.
Yeah, that's like, you don't even want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. So,
I do.
I can't.
I think the reason we look at it, I think the reason why it's made so difficult is because we absolve people of the responsibility, and then we attach responsibility to some.
Do you think we need to bring back shotgun weddings? Do we need to make that a thing again?
Yeah, I think
Back
people
in the old
should
days,
be
if a man
definitely-
got a woman pregnant before she was married and before she was moving out of the house, there was literally a shotgun wedding where if the man didn't marry her and take care of her, dad was there with a shotgun.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. What do you guys think about that? Is that a little
I'm
bit
sure
too?
that actually came about from a few very extreme
Yeah.
actual events.
Yeah, and there's some scripture in regards to that. Let's see what Jim has to say.
But we also have issues like freedom of speech. I remember 4 years ago.
For nearly 65% of our population, abortion is not enough of an issue.
Yeah.
To even worry about.
65%.
Yeah, that's what Jim says. And Jim likes numbers.
Well,
but most people don't care because it doesn't affect them.
35% it does, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Like us, we're pretty passionate about it.
Yeah.
We're not demonizing the women that make the decisions.
That is where I think we go wrong.
Yes. We shouldn't demonize the women because this is not a decision that they make. First of all,
We have to change the topic and the way it's viewed. That's what I think the key problems are, is that we've allowed somebody else to
Susan?
redefine the meanings of words and what things are in order to absolve us so that they can get the result that they want. You know what I mean?
yeah. Sorry,
Sex is great, but love and passion and parenthood and family
That's a
are
tune we
much
could all dance
more
to.
important and much bigger things.
Yes, I
And
agree.
you don't walk away from them. You
Morning,
shouldn't.
Gail.
Family. The example of how to love a neighbor and a friend should come from family. Families grow up, you're stuck in the same house and you can't live without the support of your family. You won't survive.
Think about how
You lay a
amazing-
baby out because it disagrees about what you should have had for dinner. It's going to die of starvation, right?
Right.
So it needs a family. Regardless of the errors, regardless of the wrongs done within a family, in order for a family to grow and survive into adulthood and to mature into a bigger family, there has to be a forgiveness. There has to be a commitment, no matter the other's perspectives or views. There's got to be a commitment there, or else people don't grow into bigger families. We don't grow. We should be learning how to be friends from what we experience at home and family. And somehow words have been changed and definitions have been changed where people decide to call each other family when they're friends and then call family nothing.
Right.
You know, because there's a disagreement. When in fact, true love and friendship and family is one that overlooks each other's differences, that come together and work through the hard issues and the hard topics and the difficulties that come through life, because life's not going to be easy whether you're with a group of friends or whether you're with your family. You know, but then what's happening? The family's breaking down. It's because we've changed the word. We've allowed people to say that family is really the people that you're closest to or the people that you agree with the most.
I don't consider them main family. I consider them like extended. In my mind, they become like family in Christ.
Right. Brothers in Christ is very specific to somebody who believes that Jesus Christ is Lord. He was perfect without sin, and he died for your sins.
But then, I mean, I do believe that someone
the punishment you deserve.
Yeah, true. I believe that like some people are close enough to be family, as long as they're not. I mean, they may not be blood.
Yeah, I think, but
they hold the same
the prophecies say they will change the language, and I think changing the meaning of the words that we use and using them freely to describe any little feeling or thing that we might hope that it could possibly mean.
I don't like to use the term best friend.
I don't either. Either you're a friend or you're not.
Now, I have 4 people in my life that I consider best friends.
I think closest friend should be the way it's described, and that changes over time. You know, when I was when I was young, a teenager, when I was very young, my closest friend was a friend who watches us once in a while and is a friend of mine on Facebook. I won't say her full name, but Susan. She was my closest friend growing up. I mean, I would be a liar to say that she wasn't, right? And then in my adolescence, it was my friend Chris. He was my closest friend. And he was closest because we were together all the time. We did everything together. We had our disagreements and we overcame it, and we came together the next day to be friends and to, you know, go through our little journey of life together as we had it at that time.
Yeah.
And then in my young adult life, it was Rob.
Yeah.
Now my brother-in-law. And then
Rob.
You know, and so that progressed over time, and right now it's you. You know, and look at what's happening.
And we happen to be
as we get older,
family.
Yeah, and look what's happening with Barney right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People come into our lives and they go, and it's not always our choice.
Yeah.
I think those are bad words to use, and we ought to be. It ought to be important that words be used correctly. And that definitions don't change, and if they ever do, that it be very clear what the new definition is. And what word is replacing the old definition that is now left without word or without meaning?
And that's like, well, also me. I don't use the word love lightly.
We shouldn't.
I tell you I love you all the time, but I also mean it wholeheartedly every time.
I think love should be a choice where we abandon our own feelings and our own thoughts and our own understanding of how things should be, and we obey God's description of what it means to love.
There's actually a book that I read called Love is a Decision.
Yeah, I believe it is. Partly.
I mean,
it's a mix of a lot of things. The truth is, if you choose to obey God's description of love, the feelings will follow. You know?
Yeah.
Are we getting did we get kicked off?
No, I'm just, I was trying to turn it this way. I'm setting up a video for the next show. That's what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Pulling from a classic episode.
Yeah.
All right. So today we're talking about
the election.
Which
is, we just talked about a couple of topics that might affect your vote.
Right.
Another one is freedom of speech, the Second Amendment, and gun rights. See, I remember 4 years ago where speaking out, expressing your faith openly, speaking out against these issues that we talked about today.
Right.
You would be met with real resistance and threat. People would say stuff like, I don't want to hear this at work. And I remember it was a real big thing, you know, where you could get fired for talking about it.
Right.
And still you can, I think.
People try to tell you that.
But it was likely that you'd meet some sort of resistance if you spoke about these kinds of issues. And then what does that do, too? It cheapens our topics. You know what I mean? It becomes what you drank last night. You know, the topic becomes something of little importance. You can't talk about anything that's important because somebody might be offended, and then the reprisal might be so great that you'll lose your job, or come up on some sort of a charge, or end up in court. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, for me, the First Amendment is vital. It's very important. And I felt like we were losing that, and there would be a threat of it, that a person could actually face legal hardships for speaking out.
Yeah.
Or and even violence or aggression or undermining and sabotage.
Yeah. See, we got some happy hour episodes.
Oh, you're getting ready to...
Well, no. What I'm doing is I'm trying to find some videos for a video to play next. And I'm trying to... It's really hard to find stuff.
Are we out of here?
Not yet. We got 4 minutes. Just trying to... I thought I had more episodes in this. But let's see what this... New shows to be processed. Oh, boy, that is old school there, buddy. March of last year. Wow. Something to celebrate. We haven't seen that show in a long time. So it's going to be pulling a classic episode. It's going to be...
What?
It's going to be... what do they call that? Kamikaze. Like, you know how you do the kamikaze karaoke where you just start, they give you a song to sing, and whether you know it or not, you got to try and sing it.
Oh, yeah.
So what I'm doing is I'm just closing
Who's gonna do that?
I'm just nothing. Nobody. I'm just saying. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick one at random.
What about the Second Amendment?
The Second Amendment? I don't know where that one's at. You talking about a show that we did on it?
No, the Second Amendment. How is your feelings about the Second Amendment? How does it affect your vote?
Well, in order to explain that, I need to make sure I know what each side plans to do with my right to bear arms.
Yeah.
So research it, look it up. You still got about 20 hours.
It's from what I understand, the amount of votes that have been cast already, it's very likely that everybody listening has already voted.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, hey, here's one with your son on there.
Which one? Noah.
Yeah.
What was the topic? Did it say, or we didn't do topics?
It doesn't. Yeah, no, we have something completely different. Boy, howdy. Oh, man, I am a big feller.
It's important to get out and vote. Whether you agree or disagree with my opinion on these topics, you can understand that if I vote and you disagree,
yeah,
my vote's going to count against you.
Yeah.
And the same with the other. And I think it's vitally important that the government
We're
knows
glad you're our brother and
we
you're our
actually
sister
vote.
in Christ.
Yeah.
Jackie said, I'm glad you two are my brothers in Christ.
Yes, and I didn't mean to make it sound like we shouldn't call each other family as God has intended us to.
Conflict and resolution. See, people can have conversations and disagree and still get along afterwards.
Yeah.
That's a good, we had a disagreement. We disagreed about something.
Well, and I used to call it a miracle too.
And, and the odds are I still will.
Right. And I do think that takes away from the virgin birth.
Well, the virgin birth is a miracle.
Because if every birth is a miracle,
like,
then what was that one?
It's like a super miracle.
A super miracle,
it
right?
Is.
And so you see why I'm saying the definitions are important.
I'll start working on a spectrum.
But do you do understand why I'm saying that the definitions are important?
Because I understand,
because the free use of a word to describe something that really doesn't fit, it really downplays and downgrades the actual events.
Well, we could say that something is miraculous without being a miracle.
How about divine? See, I think divine.
But divinity is miraculous. To be
God's
everywhere.
not a miracle.
Yeah.
God has always been. He's
I know.
the center key part of all.
You know
of
what's
it.
a miracle? It's a miracle that he loves us
You know, that's a
after
miracle.
all that we've done to him.
That's a miracle.
You know, and it's a miracle that I wasn't murdered as a child by people whose nerves I got on.
Right.
That's miraculous. Now, Jordan, my youngest son, he's a miracle. I will say that because he's not, by all accounts, he should not be here. Whenever his mother was a child, she was born with spinal bifida. They said she'd never walk, never have kids. Her body was trying to reject him. She had to take anti-rejection medication to have him. The blood types are different. And her body was trying to get rid of him. He is a miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
There you go.
we can agree on. That is miraculous.
That is miraculous.
I over enunciated.
Because it's very
miraculous. It was very unlikely. So I see where you're coming from on that, though.
Yeah.
You know. How about this?
I just think understanding when we say something should be important, and that understanding each other correctly should be
We can
important.
agree that childbirth is amazing.
It is amazing,
So
and it is divine.
yes, and it's amazingly
It's a
divine.
God-given gift
Yeah,
that He made available
And
to
it's a blessing.
many.
It's a blessing.
Absolutely a blessing.
you know, people will say, "Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. My life is..." Yeah, well, your life is going to change, regardless of whether
Yes.
you think you're ready for a child or not.
Whether you have a child or not, your life is going to get changed.
Yeah.
It's called adulthood
Yeah.
and then death.
Adulting sucks.
We all grow up and die and go back to dust,
So,
unless the Lord comes before we die.
and I want to thank everybody for chiming in on the subjects that we've had today. It's been a really good show, I think. I think it's been a great show.
I think so.
So remember,
I got to talk for most of it,
yeah. Well,
rambling on.
but that's all right.
I got to address some topics that I didn't get to address on that show that I did this month called Biden versus Trump. Only the facts.
Just the facts. Trump
Just
versus
the facts.
Biden.
Yes, that show.
See how we did that?
Yeah.
That's equal time.
Right.
Equal time in the front of the line. That's
And I didn't get to address them because they were controversial, and I didn't think I could do it without showing bias.
yeah. Well, did I change the? I didn't change the title on YouTube.
So it was nice today to get to address.
So I'm going to go
those.
ahead and edit that right now while I'm here, so that people will not see.
I think give me liberty, give me death. Any party that wants to take away the First and Second Amendments, I do not accept. I don't accept their authority. I don't accept their position. And I don't think they are legitimate because our Constitution gives them legitimacy, not the other way around.
Right. Good point. All right, so you know what that means? I mean, you know what time it is?
What time is it?
Okay, that wasn't very dramatic, was it? There we go. All right. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us on the Morning Drive today. We'll be back on tomorrow, same time, same channel. Be sure and vote tomorrow, regardless of who you're voting for. Get out there and do it. It's very important. So, up next is a classic episode of The Morning Drive. It's going to be fun. We got Noah Cobb on there, which is your boy, your youngest, your
My gift.
your gift.
Definitely.
Yeah.
My blessing.
So until then, my friends, God bless you and keep you. We love you. My name is Matt,
My name is Jay.
and this has been The
Morning
Morning Drive.